So all of us, we are hearing a calling. Everybody who's listening to this podcast has some spiritual calling, even if it's a little, hey, you, come on, even if it's a little tiny calling. And we're trying to answer that calling by maybe reading a book, maybe listening to the podcast, maybe listening to the podcast every day, maybe getting on Zoom and listening to the podcast every day, maybe going on a pilgrimage, maybe bathing in the Ganga, or some type of little, maybe having an altar at home. There's some little calling, and we're trying to answer that calling. And we think that by answering that calling of Krishna, we'll be satisfied. You won't be satisfied. That's the interesting thing. You're not going to be satisfied because Lord Vamana Dev is not coming for a horse. He's not coming for a sheep. He's not coming for a furnished house. Lord Vamana Dev is coming your way, and he wants everything. He doesn't want you to come on Zoom for an hour. He wants your entire life. He wants every waking moment of your life. This isn't a spiritual path that happens for an hour and 15 minutes on Sunday morning. This is every breath.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. It's Christmas Eve day, December 24th, 2024, and you know what number episode it is, 1501. It's 1500. Yesterday we had our big, supersized episode with appreciations for adding the Srimad Bhagavatam to your life. And I will say, Mara, when I walked away from that, we both embraced each other. We walked away, we embraced, and we said, this is good. It's affecting people in a deep way. It's affecting us in a deep way. It was a very inspirational episode yesterday. Everyone shared. People wrote in and people spoke their realizations. If you need some inspiration, listen to yesterday's episode 1500. Happy 1501, Kaustubha. How are you?
I'm doing good, Raghunath. You all festive over there?
Getting festive. See the presents for the kiddies.
Nice.
Background, yeah. Mara's a very good rapper. Very good.
That kind of stuff.
Very impressed.
All kind of stuff.
Yeah. Miss Mara, you got any quick announcements for us?
Well, we're going to do tomorrow's Christmas show. It'll be at the same time, 7 a.m. Eastern time. But Thursday, there'll be no show. Thursday,
no show.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you want to follow, to see when the show schedule is, just check our website, wisdomofthesages.com. And if you like, you can join and become a supporting member.
I want to give a thanks and a shout out to all the people who are supporting members. It really makes this podcast happen. So it was a community supported podcast, and we have a beautiful community. Thank you so much for everybody involved. I was laying in bed thinking, I got to say thank you more. All right. You ready for a nugget today?
I'm ready.
Or do you want to talk more?
No, the nugget will be fine. We can talk about the nugget.
Okay. It's from Blaise Pascal.
How do we pronounce that name?
Blaise.
Blaise.
A French mathematician and philosopher. Anyway.
Okay.
He says this. What else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim, but that there was once in a man a true happiness,
okay,
of which all that now remains is the empty print and trace.
What do we call that, Raghu?
Print and like an outline or something, or a skeleton.
Well, but there's a phrase that you use a lot that I think.
A God-shaped hole.
God-shaped hole.
A God-shaped.
He's
hole.
like a God-shaped dent, apparently. Right?
Yeah, it's like there was some. Why are we always struggling for happiness? It's as if there was something here. We're always trying to reclaim it. Yeah. This man tries in vain to fill with everything around him, seeking in things that are not there that are not there, the help he cannot find in those that are. Though none can help, since this infinite abyss can be filled only with an infinite, immutable object. In other words, by God himself. Yeah, this is the God. This is a very eloquent way of saying the God-shaped hole.
Yeah.
Shoving anything into that.
Okay. Careful, Raghunath.
What?
I don't know. Just you said anything. I figure we're about to get a lot of examples. But go ahead. I'm sure you have some good examples.
Well, that's it. The heart. I can't even say the heart. We are spirit. I think I like the Prabhupada's simple way to explain it was we are a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And no matter what you give the fish can't be satisfied. No matter how wonderful the life on Earth or on the planet outside of the water, no matter how refined it is, how wonderful it is, how cushiony it is, how adventurous it is, how romantic it is, if the fish is out of water, he'll never feel at peace. He'll never feel whole. He'll never feel connected. So that internal desire for love, joy, connection is a very real thing. We shouldn't bury that. And we shouldn't be distracted by it. We should hear that calling and answer to it, but understand there's nothing of this world that will satisfy it. There's nothing. We think, well, maybe it's just people do it with fame. People do it with success. People do it with popularity. People do it with notoriety. People do it with finances. If I can just get to that next level, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be complete. And it never ends. It's when that fish gets back in the water. Now, the interesting thing is that desire to get more fame, more beauty, more acknowledgement, more etc. You can push higher and higher and higher. But the thing is, as you get higher, it can corrupt you more and more and more. Whereas it's the interesting thing is in spiritual life, it never goes away. Once you're in spiritual life, people, and I'm sure everybody on Zoom or listening on the podcast right now feels like, well, there's more spirituality. I want to learn more. I want to study more. I want to be more devotional. I want to go to a holy place. I want to go on a pilgrimage. I want to go to the Ganges. I want to worship better, more refined, learn more ritual, learn more. It still never ends. But that desire is different. That desire, that in the water desire, you just become deeper, more refined, and the whole process becomes joyful. The entire process is lifting you right out of this world because we have one foot in the material world often and one foot in the spiritual world. Oftentimes we have a pinky in the spiritual world and the rest of our body in the material world. So that hankering to always want to get more and more and more, that doesn't go away. But in the material world, those paths get darker and more tragic as you go. And they become lonelier. They become very lonely. Because they're basically centered on self only, not as self as part of something bigger. Whereas that desire to go deeper and deeper while we're connected to spirit, that longing is there. I have that too. I want to go deeper in my spiritual life. But what happens is as you go deeper, you become more free. You become more connected. Your mind becomes more restful. Your heart becomes more full and satisfied. What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
Thank you for sharing that, Raghunath. Yeah, I wish I looked up how to pronounce his name before we started this podcast.
Yeah, we should have done that one. We should have done that.
But Pascal, in any case,
Mr. Pascal.
Yeah, I don't know if he coined the phrase here, or sort of, led to the coining of the phrase of the God-shaped hole. But he speaks on it very clearly, and it's interesting because we might think, well, yeah, today things are so messed up, there's so many problems, and there's all of these, our sanity, our peace of mind is being attacked in so many different ways. If only life were more peaceful. But he was a person from like the 1600s, and people were he was perceiving that everybody has this hole in them, even then, right?
Sure.
And he speaks of it with such kind of clear. It's like he could be living right now. It's like, oh yeah, you're insightful. You're picking up. I like the way that he phrases this. He says, seeking in things that are not there. Right. I'm always looking for. It's not what I have here. I need something that I don't have. I got to go out and get something I don't have. So I'm seeking.
You got to get more extreme. More extreme.
Yeah. Right. I'm seeking in things that are not here. The help that I cannot find from the things that are here. As soon as that thing that's not here, as soon as I obtain it and then have it, it still doesn't fulfill that hole. Then I'm still looking outside for more. So and I like how he phrases. It's an infinite abyss. You could go on and on and on forever, throwing stuff into that hole, never filling it. It can only be. He's saying it can only be filled with an infinite and immutable object. In other words, by God Himself. And that's where, I appreciate his realizations as a Christian. I think it sounds to me that he was getting genuine insights, genuine spiritual insights. But there's something so special about Bhagavatam that if you want to fill that hole with God, it's gonna begin to reveal to you so much about the person, the personality, how he manifests, why he manifests, what's his heart like, his creativity, his sense of humor. Not just like his infinite power, his omniscience, his omnipotence, but like his sweetness, his beauty, his creativity, his artistic sense. There's so much that you can fill, if that whole just,
Sure.
it just starts filling up. And Krishna, we understand Krishna, the very name Krishna means he who attracts, he's the all attractive. So it's when you get to when you realize what he's realized, when you feel it, a lot of times I think people, maybe in 12-step programs, people come out with this kind of thing, right? I've been trying to fill this God-shaped hole with everything. I've been running here and I've been running there and I've hit rock bottom,
Sure.
That realization, once you get there, wow, well, that's great. You figured out the big, one of the first big lessons in life. That's huge. Now let's see what we can fill it up with.
That's a great point. It's like, it's not this. It's not, you thought it was drugs and alcohol. It's not drugs and alcohol. You thought it was sex. It's not sex. You thought it was making a lot of money, getting professional. You thought it was even something nice, like having a family. It's not any of those things.
Right.
The Vedic teachings is, well, what is it? Well, I just, because sometimes I grew up in a church paradigm where it's just be good. And it's sort of like religion's supposed to just usher you towards the mode of goodness, sattva guna. But it's more than that. It's more than just being good, so to speak. It's actually a lifestyle. And that's sort of what Vedic teachings have to offer, a lifestyle of evolution. There's a lot of, if you get like a children's toy that needs a battery and you open it up and it takes like 2 D batteries, you can there's a lot of things that look like D batteries. You can put like a little piece of a sausage in there. You can put a Tootsie Roll in there, right? But they're not going to, the toy's not going to come alive. Right. What makes us come alive is our spiritual life. When we put spirit back into the God-shaped hole, we become alive. Otherwise, we feel like, what am I doing? Thank God it's Friday. Oh no, not another Monday. I can't move forward in this life. And to the degree we have even an inkling, even people who aren't necessarily opted into a spiritual path, but you could see there's something part of giving back to a whole, a connection with hearing their inner calling, treating an inner conversation they have with themselves on a regular basis that doesn't tear them down or tear other people down. You can see that glimmer of life within them as well. It's not like we have a monopoly on spirituality. It's there. Sometimes people are just carrying it through from their upbringing or carrying it through from a previous life.
Related to what you're saying, when you get, if you come to this realization that, okay, I accept nothing of this world will fill that hole inside me, right? That longing. And then you come to this, culture of the Bhagavatam, the spiritual culture of the Bhagavatam, it's said that every verse in the Bhagavatam is approaching on one of three levels, or at least one of three levels. Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So Sambandha means understanding what is my relationship with this supreme being that's going to fill that hole in my heart. Like, are we equal? Am I that being? Ultimately, is that what I discover? No. You have an eternal relationship where you are one and different. And we're going to go into the details of that. We're going to give you a very thorough, understanding of that, so you can understand who am I. Who am I in relation? What's the nature of our connection? Then Abhideya means, what is the practice that I follow to reestablish him in my heart, right? To reestablish him in that hole, to get my mind out of the way, so that I can how I settle my mind, and then what I fill my mind up with. That's the Abhideya, right? I'm going to do that through these following practices. I'm going to restrict this. I'm going to add this, and that's our Abhideya. That's the path. That's the way that we get there. And then Prayojana. What does it all look like in the end? What does the cake look like that we're trying to bake here? You need that picture of the cake on the front of the box. Otherwise you don't really know what you're trying to cook. So that's all there in Bhagavatam too. We get to the 10th canto and we begin to see what life looks like in the perfected realm, what life looks like when you've attained pure love of God. What goes on, What are the feelings? How is it expressed? How is it reciprocated with? How does it go back and forth? It's all laid out there. So if you really feel, okay, I get it. Nothing external is going to fill me. It's only this connection with that eternal, unlimited, supreme being. Well, here's the perfect way to go deep into that. Fill it all up. Read Bhagavatam every day. You're going to learn about the nature of the connection. You're going to learn about how to get there, and you're going to learn about what it looks like when you get there.
Beautiful.
All right.
What do you say we dive in? The sweet honey pot.
Let's do it.
Remember, I was saying that every day for a while. The sweet honey pot of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I go through different phases of phrases.
You do, Raghunath. You do.
Let me go through me likey. Remember that one? That was a whole me likey
era.
Well,
the original one was "Come On," but you dropped that a long time. Yeah. It's still there in the opening thing, but
yeah, we immortalized it.
Yeah.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadresu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttamaśloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 18, Text 22.
All right. Where are we? Who's speaking? It's been a while now, right?
It's been a while, Mr. Kaustubha.
I remember what's happened.
Vamana Dev took birth.
He took birth. Then?
I can't remember.
Then all the devas and the great sages and everyone, they were all giving him specific gifts, right? High-level gifts.
This is so Christmas, isn't it?
That's true.
Like three kings of Orient.
Yeah, they all gave him. So he appeared.
Bearing gifts, we travel so far. That's a good song. It's a
beautiful song. So, he appeared to fulfill the heart's desire of Aditi, who her original desire was, please protect my sons, the devas. He said, I'm not only going to protect the sons, your sons. I'm going to become your son and save them.
Right.
And then, so then there was this immaculate conception, right? Where her yogi husband feels the presence of Krishna within himself and transfers it into her. And then she kind of gives birth in a supernatural way to Lord Vishnu. And he appears as the four-armed Vishnu, fully decorated, and the whole description of, the darshan of Vishnu is given exactly what he looks like. And then before their eyes, he transforms into his Leela avatar, the form that he takes for this particular pastime. And somehow, in his unlimited, creative, beautiful mind, he decides the way that I'll appear is as a young, very beautiful dwarf who is a brahmachari, and I'm going to go and beg. I'm not going to, I could go in there and just, slice his head off. I could do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and beg from him. I'm going to be a little beggar. And so he appears in, so that form, he appears in that form, and then all of the different sages and devas, they all come and they give unique gifts to him, and they give him all the clothes and all his accoutrements that he'll need to play that role. And then he, and again, we spoke about this a few days ago. It seems, I haven't found any other indication, but it seems like, he was born, and the moment that he was born, they all came and gave him, and then he just took off, and he said, let's go find Bali, who's taking control of the universe, and he's the cause of all the devas having to run and hide. And now he just started walking there, and he's starting to arrive. And he's arriving at the place where, if you remember going back some time, when Bali conquered the universe, then he stole the position of Indra, right? Who's kind of like the ruler
Indra's
of the
planet.
heavens. He took over Indra's planet, sat on his throne. He took over that spot. Now, Indra, part of the way that he maintained himself there for so long was that he had done these, we don't call them horse sacrifices, we call them horse rejuvenation rituals.
Horse rejuvenation ceremonies.
Yes. So he had done.
Sounds a little bit more politically correct.
Yeah, and it's the idea is an old horse is transformed into a fresh new horse body and just like takes off, and everyone's like, whoa, this thing really works. But in all that's involved in performing that ritual, it's said that it brings tremendously good karma to the ruler who performs it, as well as to his kingdom and all the people in it. So by performing those 100 horse rituals, Indra just kind of like solidified his position as the ruler of the heavens. And so as soon as Bali overtook that position, his priests said, you got to do 100 yourself. Otherwise he may make a comeback. And so right now he's performing those rituals. And also, when you're like the sponsor of the ritual, it's kind of like you're meant to be in this mood of full-on generosity and pleasing everyone and satisfying anyone that needs to be satisfied. And so as he's playing that role and as a host, here comes this effulgent supernatural being walking into his arena, and he looks at him, and that's what we'll read about now. He looks at him, and he's just so striking.
Okay, this is text 22. O king, because of Vamana Dev's bright effulgence, the priests, along with Bali Maraj and all the members of the assembly, were robbed of their splendor. Right? So very, 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 very beautiful. Then you can't even notice anybody else.
And not only, beautiful, and also there's a glow coming from him, an extremely bright glow. It reminds me of Sri Chaitanya when he walked into the arena of Prakashananda Saraswati. And like he had this bad reputation amongst all these very dry, scholarly, very hardcore, renounced monist monks. Sri Chaitanya came to their town in Varanasi, and he was singing and dancing and chanting Krishna's name and crying.
He was tall. He was beautiful.
Very beautiful.
He was young, and he was glowing. And
Yeah, he can't.
everybody couldn't stop it. Just like, what? Who is this
So,
guy?
yeah, so up until that point, they just had nothing good to say about him. But when he was glowing like that,
Hmm.
that kind of caught their attention. Okay, maybe he's not ordinary. Maybe we need to hear from him, hear what he has to say. So Vamana Dev is walking into this arena in the same way. I mean, these are beings from the higher planets. They've seen a lot of far out stuff, but they've never quite seen anyone glow like this, you know.
Thus, they began to ask one another whether the sun god himself, Sanat Kumar, or the fire god had personally come to see the sacrificial ceremony. Right? They're like, what? Who? While the priests of Brigu dynasty and their disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev, holding his hands, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and the water pot full of water. How did he hold all three of them? Maybe
Because you can have the rod and the pot in one hand.
I like the
You know,
way
like if
you're
you're
thinking.
carrying the rod like the long way.
Okay. Okay.
I thought about that too. I was like, I mean, he could manifest an extra arm if he wants.
Yeah, why not?
but-
He could. Entered the arena of the Ashvamedha sacrifice. So he just came in while they're doing this sacred ritual. Appearing
And
as
it's
a Brahmana.
interesting, right? Is that all these priests, you know, sometimes we get, you see, it will happen soon that his head priest is going to say, don't trust this person that just walked in here. Because, you know, sometimes priests, they can get very, what's the word I'm looking for? Territorial.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I got my place and I got my respect and I got my opulence and I'm being maintained by these sponsors. And
Yeah.
now someone else is walking into the arena.
They're all
you
looking
know?
at him and worshiping him.
Yeah, so he's walking in looking so effulgent, and it mentions while the priests of the Brigu dynasty and the disciples talked and argued in various ways, like I assume they're arguing about like who is this person? Is he a threat to our position? You know, I think he's like this, I think he's like that. What should we do? But meanwhile, Bali's just going to look at him and be like, why all his priests are
Right.
all confused and kind of their lower nature is arising in them. Bali's just looking at him and say, who is this divine person?
While the priests of the Brigu dynasty and the disciples talked and argued in various ways, the Supreme Personality of
That's what,
Godhead, Vamanadev, holding in his hands the rod, the umbrella, and a water pot full of water, entered the arena of the Ashvamedha sacrifice. Appearing as a Brahmana boy, wearing a belt of straw, a sacred thread, an upper garment of deerskin, and matted locks of hair, Lord Vamanadev entered the arena of the sacrifice. His brilliant effulgence diminished the brilliance of all the priests and their disciples, who thus stood from their seats and welcomed the Lord properly by offering obeisances.
wow.
Little deerskin chutter.
Yeah. Or I think, you know, it's like almost like a, I don't mean to say, but almost like the Flintstones kind of thing, you know, where like you got that pelt on and then he's got the,
Yeah, yeah. I've seen people with buckskin outfits on.
have you?
Yeah.
In India?
No. Just I used to take some survival
David
courses.
Crockett.
Yeah, I'd say Davy Crockett. It's what do you call it? It becomes very useful. Clothing, probably in the Northeast, everyone wore them. You know, you knit with you can sew them together.
Yes.
Sew them together, make outfits, make pants, make shoes,
You
moccasins.
you were studying up on this for when everything collapses.
No, I just thought it was interesting. I used to take survival course, like
Well, that's what I'm
courses on
talking about.
living off the land. Not just for an apocalypse, just for I'm curious the way that civilization has lived for thousands of years, and how
Okay.
we've sort of broken away. And yes, those if there ever is a real collapse of, you know, uh, shipping things here. What do they call that when things
What?
global
When things go-
distribution? And anyway, yeah, you have to learn these basic things of how to live off the land again.
All right,
Anyway,
Raghunath, I'm coming to you when I need an outfit. Okay.
okay, we're gonna have some like buckskin, ahimsa buckskins, the deer that got hit by cars.
And here that's already
I guess
dead.
there won't be any cars at that point.
But they all die sooner or later, Raghunath. One way.
Yeah, eventually they die. Okay, enough of buckskin. Appearing as a Brahmana boy wearing a belt of straw, I read that. Bali Maraj, jubilant at seeing Lord Vamana, whose beautiful limbs contributed equally to the beauty of his entire body, offered him a seat with great satisfaction.
This is interesting, right? Like, and this is something I still haven't found an answer to, Raghunath. Is that
Let me see if I can help you.
okay? Our first vision of Bali was on the battlefield. You remember? He had his armor on,
Yeah.
and he was the enemy of the Devas. He was out to kill Lord Indra, who in a sense is Vishnu's representative, right?
Yep.
He was being portrayed as a fearsome, deadly warrior out to disrupt universal stability and take it over on behalf of his dynasty, which is the dynasty of the heavy-duty demons like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, etc. But we see him here as like Lord Vishnu. Generally, for them, Vishnu is the enemy, right? Vishnu is the one that killed their forefathers, in the form of Lord Varaha. He killed Hiranyaksha in the form of Nrsingadev. He killed Hiranyakashipu and etc. So like Vishnu is their enemy. Here is Lord Vishnu. Whether he knows he's Vishnu or not, I'm not sure, but he sees him coming in. He's going to be told that's Vishnu by his priests, right?
Well, the interesting thing is Vishnu is attractive to everyone. Doesn't matter. Like here in this world, you have people who are, and that's what I really liked about Krishna consciousness when I first got into it, because I used to go to spiritual yoga centers.
Okay.
And everyone was sort of like these very new agey people who people you see like they're obviously into spirituality. They have the outfits on, the crystals on,
crystal
the malas on.
neck.
They're Indian kurta or some type of like yogi pants. When I say like big baggy cotton pants. But when I got into Bhakti, I started noticing like there's all different. It's a real melting pot of races, of cultures, of very wealthy, sometimes very poor, of very sort of like peaceful, sometimes people not so peaceful and aggressive, like the people that you and I knew. But it was like Krishna is all attractive, no matter what guna you are born into. Meaning, if you're dominated by the mode of ignorance, dominated by the mode of goodness, you can't help but becoming attracted to Krishna. I still see this to this day. There's people who appear like they are very dark beings, but they have a place in their heart for Krishna, and they can't even explain it, but they're attracted to Krishna. Then you see people who are like these yogis, self-controlled, very regulated. They're attracted to Krishna. Krishna is all attractive. You'll be surprised. And sometimes you think, well, it's a very deep philosophy. Intellectuals will be attracted. Yes, they will be. And you know who else will be? Completely insane people that you never think.
A few of them too.
They'll be attracted too. Matter of fact, sometimes those people who are very like maybe intellectual or zipped up or parallel and perpendicular life, due to some ego, they're not attracted. And it's sort of like the crazy guy that you never thought would be attracted becomes totally attracted. Because Krishna is all attractive. And the real qualification is not whether you have a wrinkle-free life or not. It's whether your heart is soft and whether when you're in great pain, you lean into Krishna. Oh, Krishna, right? That's the sort of the qualification. When you're in that pain, will you put up your hand and say, I can't do anything in this world. It's up to you, Krishna. When we're humbled, and instead of medicating that red light on the dashboard, like if you get that gas light on the dashboard, you got 30 miles till empty. Don't take a screwdriver and bang that light out. No, you gotta reply. It's time to get gas. So when we have some sadness or some longing, like Pascal was saying in the beginning, when that heart is craving for something more, when there is a melancholiness about life, don't lean into booze. Don't lean into some type of activity that's going to make us forget. And then we get caught in another big type of illusion that says, you know what, there's just nothing. This whole world is nothing. And you spin more and more out of control. No, that's when we like put our hands up and say, oh God, what would you like from me in this short life? I'm
Well,
yours. Please direct me. And that's the qualification to get close to Krishna. Got nothing to do with how pious you are, what a good person you are, etc. It's can I lean into Krishna when I'm sad?
Well,
What do you think?
that's the way that Bali is going to see Vishnu coming in as Vamana Dev. What can I give you? You know, but my question is, like his priests and so on, they're not. They may be attracted, but they're still set in their hearts against him. They see that he's a threat to their position. He's a threat to their stability. Like that's what we were saying earlier. Like you have a priest that's got sponsors. Someone comes in there and seems to be threatening it. He's like, all these other priests are going to be like, this is a trick. This
Right.
person's coming on behalf of the devas. Everything that you've accomplished is at risk. If you fall under the influence of this person, don't let that happen. And he's going to be like, whatever he wants, I'm going to give him. Like that. But here's my question is, was
wants
he
it all.
always like, was he, although he was externally playing the role of a demon, like, in other words, although he was official representative of that dynasty, did he always have a devotional heart? Did it happen when he saw Lord Vamadev right now? Did it happen on the spot? Did he have a transformation? That's what I don't understand.
Let's continue. Maybe we'll find out.
All right.
Bali Maraj jubilant at seeing Lord Vamanadev. He was so happy, right? Imagine if you see Lord Krishna face to face, you must be like, oh my God. You don't even know why you're so attracted. I've seen this happen. People go into a temple and they're just like, oh, I've brought people to kirtans and they're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like they've lost their mind. Or they go see the deity. Oh my God, what is going on here? Or they go to the Holy Dham. What is going on here? And they just
I
feel
remember,
something different.
I always remember. Did you ever meet David Dritta? David Dritta Prabhu?
Not sure.
When I first came back to New York, after I was a brahmachari for 13 years and so on, and then I came back to New York,
Mhm.
and this devotee, he's a great soul, David Dritta. David Dritta is like, well, our nickname for him, we just all called him the boss. He was the boss. He ran a business out of his apartment.
Mhm.
And Kalia Krishna worked there. Kinchana Krishna worked there for a while. And
Okay,
one or
go
two
on.
others.
You got a lot of
So,
insider
huh?
information here.
So he, he looked like John Gotti or something, and he talked like John Gotti too. He was just, we all called him the boss, but he was a very sweet devotee.
Mm.
And what did you just say? Why did I think of him? You just said something. Oh yeah, he got brought to the Holy Dham. He got to Mayapur, and when he came to Mayapur and he began to feel the energy here, and he began to hear about the pastimes, and he began to absorb himself, he just kept saying, "This place ain't normal. It ain't normal."
It's not normal.
He could perceive that this is not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. It really is. By the way, all our programs in India are closed right now. Our Wisdom of Sages training, the teacher
Are they?
training, they're all closed.
All right.
But the trip to Mayapur is
Still
open.
open.
There's still some spots there if you're interested in going to
Okay.
Mayapur. But it's not ordinary place. And it's something, if you go in with that heart, leaning into Krishna, it's like you feel like boom, it's so explosive and you're like, where am I? You get that feeling.
Yeah.
All right, so going on. This is very interesting what's going on right now.
Okay, read 27 again.
Thus offering a proper reception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always beautiful to the liberated souls. Bali Maraj worshipped him by washing his lotus feet.
Okay.
So that's what you do, and you have an exalted guest. You sit them down, you wash their feet.
Yeah.
Lord Shiva,
And
the best of the
but
demigods.
just there's just one phrase here. It says Mukta Sangha Manoramam. Mukta Sangha Manoraman, which means well, here it was translated as like always beautiful to the liberated souls. But like really, manorama means like pleasure to the mind. And mukta sangha means those that are the group of people that are liberated, right? The category of people that are liberated. Mukta sangha manoraman. He's beautiful to those, to the liberated souls. You see, because sometimes it's considered the liberated soul is the one that doesn't need any external thing. They don't find it. Kind of, if we go back to our hole in the heart, hole in, the God-shaped hole and all that, there's a level of liberation where you say, I don't need anything external. I have it all within me, right? By my very nature, I'm ananda, I'm blissful. So once you've achieved that state, there shouldn't be anything external, nothing material should bring you satisfaction, because you recognize it's not of the same category. It doesn't attract you anymore. Form and externals and so on. But this beautiful little boy walks in, and he's giving pleasure to the minds of even those that are liberated. Why? Because he's of another category. That form is not a material form.
Mm.
That form is an entirely spiritual form. It's not subject to time. It's not subject to karma. It's not subject to the gunas. It's of an entirely spiritual nature. So the mukta sangha, the liberated people who are focused on spirit, they feel it. They recognize it. This person, this form, is entirely spiritual and giving me bliss. Drowning me, in a lake of bliss. Just to see the form. So it's a unique type of form. It's not a material form.
Okay, this is text 28.
Whenever you're ready.
Text 26.
Text 28.
Lord Shiva, the best of the demigods, who carries on his forehead the emblem of the moon, receives on his head with great devotion the Ganges, water emanating from the toe of Vishnu.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, like they're using this eternal example of Lord Shiva. But supposedly one of the reasons why he has the Ganges on his forehead is because toe of Vamana is, right?
Which hasn't happened yet. Which is about to happen.
Yet.
Yeah.
But Lord Shiva's eternal being.
Vamana Dev is about to take a step that's going to bring the Ganga into this world.
Right.
But
it's like we're trying to put things in a chronological order when things are outside of the realm of time.
Right.
Being aware of religious principles, Bali Maraj knew this. Consequently, following in the footsteps of Lord Shiva, he also placed on his head the water that had washed the lotus feet. So he's a deep person. He sees Lord Vamana, he washes his feet, and then he takes the water that was washing the feet and puts it on his head. So he has some deep respect for the Lord, whether he knows it or not.
And again, going back to my earlier question, I'm wondering, like, let's say that let's entertain the possibility that he was a straight up demon, but when he saw that form, something in him clicked, and then he put the water of his head on his feet on his head, and that act freed him of all his bad karma and all his demoniac mentality. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
Bali Maraj then said to Lord Vamana, "O Brahman, I offer you my hearty welcome and my respectful obeisances. Please let us know what we may do for you. We think of you as the personified austerity of the great Brahmana sages.
Powerful.
Oh, my Lord, because you have kindly arrived at our home, all my forefathers are satisfied." Right? That when someone comes
that's a really interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Because you killed my forefathers,
yeah.
right?
But they're actually satisfied.
Yeah.
Our family and our entire dynasty have been sanctified, and the sacrifice we are performing is now complete because of your presence. O son of a Brahmin, today the fire of sacrifice is ablaze according to the injunction of Shastra, and I have been freed from all sinful reactions of my life by the water that has washed your lotus feet.
See,
oh,
so
my Lord.
maybe that was the moment, or so, I don't know.
Yeah, when did he have that paradigm shift? Like, this guy is coming to take everything. You know, this is
Because
another
his
interesting thing, twist to the whole story, Kaustubha.
his grandfather was Prahlad,
Yeah.
who was also in the dynasty of the demons and was a pure devotee from birth.
Mm.
But we know that that happened because Narada was speaking to him while he was in the womb, you know, so he was getting all these devotional instructions. But when did it happen to Bali? Was he born that way? Did it happen here? I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna keep reading before I talk. O son of a Brahmana, it appears you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you may want, take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house. Interesting. Palatable
house.
food and drink.
Unfurnished apartment, if you prefer that way.
The daughter of a Brahmana for your wife.
Very qualified
That's a
girl.
common thing. Get it qualified. A prosperous village.
Okay.
Horses, an elephant, chariots, or whatever you desire. Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's the end of the chapter. I was thinking this, Lord, the interesting thing is that thing we were talking about at the beginning of the show, where we want, in the material realm, we're led deeper and deeper, almost into the forest. More this, more money, more fame, more beauty, more recognition, higher levels, better vehicles, more vehicles, bigger house, extensions on my house, you know, more. And so it takes us deeper and deeper, but oftentimes it takes us as the center of the enjoyer. So the forest we get more and more lost in that forest. It's a very common thing that can happen. And that's why you'll hear all these people shunning things like good fortune and, a wealthy person is, what is the quote? It's harder to go
The
through
Bible.
Huh?
It's easier for a camel to go through the
eye of a
needle
than a
than
wealthy
for
person. And
enter the kingdom of God.
right, because you can become self-absorbed and you can forget about everybody else in this world that is going through their pain. But the spiritual realm is no different. And when Lord Vishnu enters your life, Lord Vishnu is coming to beg. And so all of us, we are hearing a calling. Everybody who's listening to this podcast has some spiritual calling, even if it's a little, hey, you, come on, even if it's a little tiny calling. And we're trying to answer that calling by maybe reading a book, maybe listening to the podcast, maybe listening to the podcast every day, maybe getting on Zoom and listening to the podcast every day, maybe going on a pilgrimage, maybe bathing in the Ganga, or some type of little, maybe having an altar at home. There's some little calling, and we're trying to answer that calling. And we think that by answering that calling of Krishna, we'll be satisfied. You won't be satisfied. That's the interesting thing. You're not going to be satisfied because Lord Vamana Dev is not coming for a horse. He's not coming for a sheep. He's not coming for a furnished house. Lord Vamana Dev is coming your way, and he wants everything. He doesn't want you to come on Zoom for an hour. He wants your entire life. He wants every waking moment of your life. This isn't a spiritual path that happens for an hour and 15 minutes on Sunday morning. This is every breath. One name for the Lord is Prananath. He's like the very Lord of your prana. Every breath, every thought, every action. He wants all your talents. He wants all your intelligence. He wants all your gifts. They're meant to be given back. There's no more space for the ego. And as we get into Bhakti more and more, you will see Krishna starts taking away the ego, but he starts replacing it with something exponentially better. Makes you sometimes we think, well, the more stuff I have, the more grounded I will be. No way. Oftentimes, we have more anxiety sometimes. The more I have, the more there's fear I'm going to lose. The real groundedness comes from, I feel connected to God. Doesn't matter what I have or what I don't have. I feel connected to God. No one can hurt me. Nothing can break apart in my life because I have that connection. And therefore, anxiety starts to diminish. And here comes Lord Vamana Dev, and he's going to take everything from Bali Maraj. And Bali Maraj has everything to give. and he's going to give it all.
Gonna give it all.
Going to give it all.
All right.
He
Looking
wants it
forward to
all,
hearing that.
Kaustubha. Lord Krishna wants it all. That's all.
Okay.
Doesn't want you.
He wants
a
our
prayer every
love.
day.
That's in one sense. That's all he wants. But we express it by giving him it all.
Yeah.
Giving him everything. Yeah.
It sounds intimidating, but it's a beautiful thing, and we feel
Right.
that. Like we heard on the podcast yesterday, someone wrote in. They said, I lost all these things, but I feel like I've got so much more now.
Happy Jack was sharing that.
Happy
actually.
Jack was
Yeah, that
saying.
his marriage ended, his
Right,
house
right.
burned down.
His house-
That's heavy.
business was diminished,
Yeah.
but he felt so much more
Satisfied.
satisfied.
Yeah.
That's what happens with Krishna.
what,
He
brother?
gives you everything you need, not just the things you want.
That reaction
you-
from Happy Jack, that ain't normal.
That ain't normal.
Ready for some takeaways?
Take it away, Mara.
Mara, I gotta say, she's making me this clove drink every morning, and then
Saffron.
I get the cloves and saffron, and I get these cloves in my mouth, and I want to spit them out, but they're so good. If you just chew on these soft cloves, they like empower me. I feel stronger than ever. I'm ready to wrestle a bear.
I think it might have more to do with you and your nature than the cloves. Not sure they'll have that effect on everyone. All right.
He's got that clove there. He's got two of them in his mouth right now.
Man,
The Vedas teach you a lifestyle of evolution.
yeah, I like that, Mara.
We're always seeking more. Spiritualize it.
More.
What makes us come alive is our spiritual life.
you go.
Yep.
More than being good, it's our connection to God.
More than being good.
Connection.
How do I settle my mind and what do I fill it with?
Important questions.
Fill them up with Bhakti.
Our qualification is a soft heart and leaning into Krishna.
There you go.
We're chasing more into the deep forest.
Oh.
Yeah. It just lost in the forest. More fame, more money, just more confusion. It's just confusing. What do I do? And then we just be like, and we always get this, it's all nothing. It's all worth nothing. People say that so much. I have so much, it's all worth nothing. Hmm?
God doesn't want your furnished house. He wants it all. Everything.
Everything.
Furnished house. Doesn't want just your furniture or your house or your furnished house. Well,
Krishna attracts everyone, even the insane people.
yeah. Yes, he does.
And
Even the insane get Krishna consciousness.
don't bang out your dashboard light. Stop and fill your gas tank.
Stop and fill the gas, people. Thank you very much. Thank you very
What you
much for
gotta
joining us on episode 1501. Woo! Tomorrow's Christmas morning, and we're going to do a show on Christmas morning. Is anybody going to be here? Is anybody going to be here on Christmas morning? Or are you going to be just opening presents?
Oh, they're all going to be here.
We should know what Bhakti recovery meetings are happening so that we can announce them.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Announce that tomorrow. Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. It's fun to see all these beautiful faces on Zoom.